Hello and welcome. This is the first episode of a show called Saltwater for the Soul, which are just soul-led conversations about life and love, healing, growth, all those good things. Sometimes saltwater's got to clean out a wound, and sometimes it stings a little bit, but it's almost always worth it. And there's incredible healing power around salt water. So this is just about that and about the soul. And I'm so excited to hold space with my beautiful friend, Melissa Deehan. Hi, Melissa. How are
Well,
you?
how are you today?
I'm so good. I'm excited. Every time I hang out with you, I feel like a little kid again. It's like
I
every time
love
I
that
talk to
energy.
you or get a message from you, I'm like, lit up.
I'm the same with you. You're contagious. Absolutely contagious, kid. For sure.
Would you do us the honor and tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what your magic is in the world right now?
I would love to tell you about myself, but honestly, I am changing every single day. This is like such a wild ride. Um, I that's the truth. I actually don't know who I am. I don't know who I am. I am somebody who is, without exception, committed to unraveling piece by piece everything that is not me. And in the process of doing that, loving the journey of finding, or rather remembering, I think, everything that is. And conversations like this is a perfect place to explore that. I think everybody is kind of in this place at the moment, isn't it? Where so much is changing so fast, so furiously. I love the way you even opened up by simply talking about the name of your show. That's exactly it. We're
Oh,
living
we're putting
we're,
salt water in all the wounds right now.
we're living saltwater. So I couldn't. I know that sounds like the most opposite way to begin anything, but I couldn't, because I'm a different woman from even the last time we had an interaction. I'm a different woman from the one who opened her eyes this morning. I'm a different woman from, I don't know. It's changing so rapidly. But all I do know is um, I'm loving who I am. I'm loving where I am. I'm loving the journey that the salt water has taken me on. And I'm really, really happy to be here. So thank you for this space. Thank you for this opportunity to catch up and
Thank
play.
you. It's such an honor. I feel like what you just described is like alchemy and like how to alchemize yourself and strip away all the things that no longer serve you, whether it was beliefs or conditioning or old habits or ways you think you are or what so and so thinks about you, and then you act that way. All those things, they just start to like rip away.
Mm.
And then I feel like when you're truly living just kind of in alignment and like on purpose, if you will, like that's just it. Like you're not the same person as you were 5 minutes ago, and this wonderful, amazing, magical quantum world just keeps opening up, and more potentials and possibilities come in, and you get to choose and
Mhm.
decide and co-create with what feels most in alignment with you. And
Yeah.
like I just think
You
that's
know,
so cool the way you described it all.
you know what the beautiful thing is, right? I had this discussion this morning with a friend of mine, and the opportunities that unfold in this space are very evident, very clear. Um, the field of potential is potent right now in my world. But what I'm understanding is, and it's to loop back into what you just said, it's always there, and it's always there for everybody. But we are so distracted by our bullshit. We are so distracted by our history. We are so distracted by our trauma, by our pain, by our suffering. We're so distracted by the stories that literally run on a loop in our being, in our head, in our heart, in our physical bodies. And we literally experience all of these things as our norm, as our normal. And they are the furthest thing from normal. But we become so distracted by them, so consumed by them, so engulfed by them, that we never stood a chance to remember the magic that we are, or to see the magic that's around us, or to actually observe these doors that are opening over and over and over and saying, come this way, come this way. And how can we see the opportunities when we're like this going around the place, not able to see shit, not able to feel shit? Oh, turn it down, turn it off. I don't want to feel like this. But that's what happens. That's what happens. And we get lost. We get lost. And you spoke as well in the beginning about how, this childlike energy that we both come into play, and I love it because I do. I think you're like contagious as fuck. And then what it does is it allows us to remember and tap into that innocent essence that we literally came into this planet with, that's conditioned out of us, that's hammered out of us, that's judged out of us. It's and we forget who we are, and that's so heartbreaking. When we go into these spaces then of detaching from all of this, if we can, we get to tap back into that magic and create from there. So yeah, I don't know if that even made sense.
It made so much sense to me, sister, and I love it. And I think that's, for me, that's where I found all the magic happened. When I was like, all right, here's this hard, scary shadow work coming up. Let me take a look at all these things. And then to meet myself and, everyone else in society, in the world, with forgiveness. Because it's like, all right, we created this crazy matrix that makes us all resonate in guilt, shame, fear, and criticism all the time. So that's no fun. And none of us, like you said, stood a chance. So then I like switched it, and I was like, almost like, wow, I feel like I'm privileged to know that the matrix even exists and that all this stuff even happened and that I was programmed into this. And then it's like, oh, you go through the, why is this happening and all that. But then once you start to strip that away and say, wait a minute, none of this is actually me. These were all just as I taught, that were taught to me, or I learned from examples that were in front of me. And I don't belong to it anymore. And like, yeah, is there grace with yourself? And I believe very much, for me, I came down, I think, in this lifetime to do a lot of hands-on work. So, building a bridge between the whole 3D and the 5D and what that looks like. And so you still have to show up in your everyday life. And that's where the work happens. It happens on the yoga mat, or when you're in a, argument with a family member, or something at work happens that upsets you. It's all about how for me, it was like, starting to transform my reaction, becoming aware of my reactions, then transmuting my reactions into responses, into everything. And that was like my womp womp, that was like, whoa, I actually got to detach a little bit, and I get to choose how I want to interact and what bothers me. And trust me, every single trigger that you can will come up to prove it to yourself once you start working on that. But that's where the potency is, and the magic, and the opportunity to put the salt water in the wound and cleanse it out a little bit.
Yeah, we're so reluctant to do that, though. We're so reluctant to do that because nobody wants to feel that again. And the thing is, we are anyway when we choose not to. When we choose not to lean in and identify anything that's stagnant within us, that needs that love, or dormant, or we suffer. We suffer anyway. So I love what you said, because you're talking about self-awareness, and the more aware we are of ourselves, the more present we can be in any given moment where we're triggered, because trigger can't work without the explosive material being within here and active. So for me, to be aware is everything. So like I've stopped I've stopped referring to doing the work, doing the inner work. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm actually doing, which might answer the question in the very beginning, who am I, what am I doing? I'm committing on a daily basis to understanding me. That's it. That's my only job. More and more and more. And if I'm pulled into a situation and my awareness distracts me or takes me to something else that allows a trigger to detonate, then epic. I'm welcoming this shit now, because I do understand. A piece of me always did that. A trigger will always take us to the unhealed aspects of ourselves. And that's a map back to the heart. It's not, the world's not there to piss you off or to, get one up on you or whatever at all. But if we stay in a place of resentment or bitterness or fear, I mean, that's a whole topic there on its own. If we stay there though, we're robbing ourselves of what you can actually experience in the now moment, which is everything. So for me, that awareness allows me to rediscover me second by second, moment by moment. And I'm in awe of it. I really am. I really am. It's not, don't get me wrong, I get triggered the same as anybody else does. But like you said, when you're in it, that's what expansion looks like. When you're in it. It's not like having these peak experiences in a very what's the word? Pre-organized place of Zen. It's not. It's in the middle of a conversation, a confrontation, where you are back where you were before, being asked, what are you going to do now? And how are you going to do it? And how can you honor you and still honor the other as you? And I'm like, so.
And how many opportunities do we get a day to play with that, to co-create with that, to experience that, to observe ourselves? Like you said, if you have the opportunity to just step back in the moment, in the present, it's endless. And it starts that's when the switch maybe happens of like, it's happening for us. And we're like, okay, like for me in my own mind and my own ego, I call it like my like conscious ninja warrior training. And I'm like, all right, I got another like obstacle, another challenge here. And like, I always, refer to it with myself a lot of times, it's just ripping off the Band-Aid. It's like, I can avoid this. I can avoid this uncomfortable feeling or this uneasiness or this hard conversation or hope it goes away. But all that does is add anxiety to myself, or, puts me in a state where I'm not present, because then I'm worrying about, what the outcome of this potential uncomfortable situation is. Where a lot of times, if I just take a few deep breaths, I ask my angels to surround me in white and blue light and protect me. And then in my ninja head, I rip off the Band-Aid and I just go, and I'm like, okay, what do we have here? And I was talking to a friend recently who's going through what we like to call the dark night of the soul, or a lot of people refer to it that way. And I was like, oh, that's fantastic. And she's like, I don't want to go through a dark night of the soul this summer. And I was like, yeah, I get that. I'm like, but for me, I found my dark night of the soul was actually like the dark light of like the light came in to the dark when I started to become aware, and when, like the Band-Aids got ripped off. And it was like, every day got easier through that for me, because I started showing up in different ways for myself than I had before. And it gave me permission to leave like the old part of myself and all the old programs and all the old ways of being. I was like, for me, like being aware you're going through a dark night, it was like a permission slip. And it's not fun, it's not easy, but if you choose to meet yourself with a little bit of ease or grace, or, make yourself the tea or buy yourself some flowers that week or whatever it is, it really makes all the difference. And then you get to start to really like just be present and co-create with yourself, because that's all it is.
Can I ask you a question? Right now, this second, if I said to you, knowing who you are now, this woman who is speaking to me right now, would you go back and redo everything again if it meant that you got to be you right now?
Oh, yeah.
See, that's the thing. And everybody who has not kind of gone through this or are in a place of high fear, like hugely consumed by fear in whatever shape or form, afraid of change, afraid of the new, are so consumed by the what ifs that they're literally clinging onto their words for dear life. They're trying to hold what is trying to leave. They're trying to fix what is broken beyond repair. They are trying to fit into places where they do not belong. They are trying to hold not just themselves but everybody around them, and are crippling underneath that pressure. And rather than face the uncertainty, the unknown, the what ifs, they think that they're doing the right thing for themselves, in huge resistance. When the truth is, when you walk, for me, this is for me, and if you just answered that way, then it's you as well. When you commit to you, when you choose you, when you honor you, when you let go, when you stop trying to hold on, when you stop trying to fix, when you stop trying to repair, when you stop trying to hold everybody, and then put yourself very strategically in a place where you are on the receiving end of the love that you know you are, the game changes. And it's another way of hearing what you've just said. I heard you say, I chose me. I heard you say, I chose me in all the tiny ways, because all of the tiny ways accumulate to everything. And yeah, and it's worth it. It's so worth it. Like, I thought, okay, I'm gonna say something, right? I genuinely thought, right, I'm on doing this work a while now, and you know, you plod along, you take the highs, you take the lows, but you keep moving forward. And I thought I was in a place, you know, I'm doing okay with this shit. And then the world implodes. And you have got nothing left to hold on to hold up, to push down. I mean, you don't have the bandwidth to do it anymore. You just don't. The world implodes. The universe says, stand down. And when you eventually concede and surrender, not because you're so, excuse my language, not because you're so fucked you don't have, but because you know it's time. You lose all of these different aspects of yourself in whatever way, shape, or form, and you say, okay, I surrender. I surrender to everything. I got to that place about 3 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Right? I got to that place. I thought I was there. You know what I'm talking about. You think you're like, this shit can't get any worse, man. It seriously can't get any worse. And then the world blows up. And then I actually relived, which I'm going to come back to in a minute, the energy of what I want to talk to. I relived something that was pretty much like my worst timeline in the past, which was the death of my dad. But I relived it via a different experience. But the energy of it was identical. So all of a sudden I find myself in a place where energetically everything feels the same. I couldn't compartmentalize it in my head, but my heart was breaking as if it was the same thing repeat. And when I hit that point, I just went, I'm done. And you know what I'm talking about when I say I'm done. It's not like, fuck this shit. It's not like that. It's like, it's that place where you literally take a breath and go, okay, I see. I have no control over anything in this goddamn world other than how I choose to respond. And my choice to respond is, okay. I put my head down and I poured all of the love that I am into myself in tiny ways, all the tiny ways. In particular, physically, I really started to mind myself and nurture myself and started to do the things I love again, and allowed the grief to come in the waves. And there were many, and it still comes. The places I realized where I had displaced the love that I know I am, in the hope of receiving it back in breadcrumbs from different places, situations, things, experiences, and then more grief comes. And it's the dance of grief and acceptance and just be here now and take a breath, breathe. And I started to understand. I'm still learning, remembering that once we get to this place where you completely surrender to the will of the world, the universe, and start to really trust, not in the external, but in the internal. Trust. I don't know how to explain it, but shit pivots.
Shit pivots.
It does.
Mic drop. It's true.
In the moment, then, what happens is, or what I'm learning right now is, in the present moment, my awareness of myself, when I'm not distracted by anything outside of me, is so expansive that I can see the beauty or the gift of what's in front of me, right? If I'm distracted by anyone else or anything else, that's okay too. But how much of myself am I giving to this situation? Where is my energy depleting? What am I doing? Am I honoring me? Am I speaking my truth? Am I just pacifying the shit out of you so that you don't feel bad? And I'm in this place, and honestly, I don't know how to describe this shit. The alchemy that just unfolds is, we read about it in the like of a Facebook post, or you hear somebody talk about it and you're like, oh my God, I love that shit. But when it starts happening because of you, simply loving you, simply speaking your truth, simply choosing you over and over and over again, I bring myself back to the words, it's an inside job, which is so cliche, but it's a fact. Or love is the great miracle cure. It's a fact. And the only way out is in. All of these things that were, sounded nice and woo-woo and stuff were really cool, but like, yeah, but no, this will fix me and that will fix me and he will fix me or she will fix me. No to it all. And from this space, I'm understanding that I can take myself back to now, and right now ask myself, what do I need? And give it to me. And stop being consumed by everything outside of me. So the present moment and honoring myself is the only thing I'm doing right now. And yet my whole entire world, the whole trajectory of my world has just pivoted.
How beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, you know yourself, it's a journey. It's not a destination. And so it might pivot back. It might go off kilter altogether. That's okay. Whatever happens, happens. But I just, from doing this, from making the commitment to understand myself, having gone through everything that I've gone through, the present moment allows me to immediately access my wisdom of what I've learned. Take me back into the experiences like that, asks me, what do I want to do differently? Because that's my choice. That's my will. It's my experience. So what do I want to do differently? Well, if I know trauma intimately, I know suffering intimately, I know pain. I know what it feels to feel absolutely unsafe in the world. Okay, what did you learn from these things? I learned power, strength, courage, heart, determination. And I've kept cracking my heart open over and over and over. Okay, cool. Now what you want to do with that? Okay, well, let me tell you. You know what I mean?
You got a huge heart in there, so I can only imagine.
Yeah, but it's really cool because I didn't know it could be like this. I didn't know it could be like this. And I'm so grateful for it, you know. So if there's anybody who's tuning into this conversation right now and they're in the wars, and a lot of people are in the wars, you're not alone. You know, everybody is in it. Everybody goes through it, including us. I'm not out by any means. What I am going to say is what I wanted to loop back to earlier on when I was talking was about the repeat energy coming up. I think this is one of the things that a lot of people are experiencing right now. So it's like history repeating. It looks like history is repeating. Okay. It feels more like anything. Sorry, I'm gonna start again. It feels like history is repeating because it feels like inside the same. It feels like chaos. The confusing part is it's repackaged differently, and we're all very aware of it. Ironically, it's been happening throughout. But what happens is it comes packaged in a different box with a different wrapper and a different bow. But knowing what we know about ourselves now, okay, remembering who we are over and over again, remembering who we are not. Big gap between the two.
Huge.
Right?
It's so hard to bring that together. That's a dance.
Yeah. And in the place of revisiting this energy, just to remember that if you choose to lean into this, if you choose to take the bow off, unwrap the gift, look inside, and nobody wants to, everyone's like, take this motherfucking thing off me. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this again. I can't do this again, which is in that space of, you know. But if you choose to lean in, right, you're getting the opportunity to rewrite your timelines from a place of conscious awareness and actually extract what it was you actually wanted to experience all along. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense to me.
So a lot of people are, what this feels like to a lot of people right now is intensity. Like their world is blowing up, or it's going on, it's in flames, it's burning to the ground, right? And nobody knows what to do with it. They're, like I said, it's like what I was trying to describe earlier on. We're trying to put out the fires. We're trying to you know, take water where it's already depleted. This is what I'm trying to say. Instead of just opening and leaning in. And what we're doing is opening up and being vulnerable. And because history told us that every time we got that package and opened up that thing, it just blew up and fucked us over.
Yeah.
We don't want to go through any aspect of that again because, well, nobody's got the energy for it. And yet, if we do, it allows this space to do that, to just go, okay, show me what I need to see. Show me what I need to see. And letting it just work its way through us. I wrote a post. I didn't post it yet. I wrote a piece yesterday, when I was in work, and I wrote. I just realized the magnitude of what we've all been through, what it's taken for you to get to this point, what it's taken for me to get to this point, what it's taken for anybody listening to this right now to get to this point. And I just wrote, I wrote, for the generation coming behind us, this generation pretty much needs to sort its shit out and sort it out now.
Yeah, they're so sensitive. Our
Yeah.
sweet souls coming in.
Because the only thing we have inherited generationally is trauma. And the only thing that we have come to accept is the abnormal. And if each person can take accountability and responsibility for the fire that they created, for the world that's burning down around them, in order to show them, or remind them rather, of who they actually are inside, what they're suppressing, what they are not allowing themselves to experience, the ones coming behind us don't have hope. And this is individually and this is collectively. What's in one is in the whole. Do you mind if I grab this? I didn't finish it, right? I didn't finish it.
Oh, sister, lay it on the altar. That's what this space is for. I love it. We let soul lead us. And I'm just so loving funny. Everything you're saying right now.
What I wrote is, what hope have the next generation if this one doesn't get its shit together? We have inherited the pain and suffering of every generation before us. We are the descendants of unacknowledged trauma. We are a generation traumatized, craving love, safety, acceptance, and a depth of authentic connection that we have almost destroyed ourselves beyond recognition in a mere feeble attempt to attain just a breadcrumb of it. I wrote a small piece. This isn't finished. I literally was being pulled from one aspect into another. Because as I wrote that, I was also acknowledging myself in the same time of what I have lived. And I wrote, my fucking heart is broken as I recall the memories of my past. The lengths I went to just to feel love, to know love. The experiences I lived that guaranteed the annihilation of my innocence, my spirit, my will. The people who played a role of a direct mirror of all of the fragmented aspects never stood a chance. Lex is talking to me. The people who played a role of a direct mirror of all of the fragmented aspects of me never stood a chance. Unrealized trauma responses guaranteed my repeating what I had no idea needed repairing within me. I normalized the abnormal, hardwired to believe that to love someone automatically went hand in hand with the loss of self. I got to finish. But the words I wrote after it were simply disconnection, separation, control, loss, and grief. And I think right now, another reason that people are really feeling the intensity of this is because of those two situations, twofold. One, the remembering of who we are. And two, the loss of what we, or the perceived loss of what we have gone through in order to realize that, well, for me, the only thing I ever needed to do was be the love that I was giving out. And there's a piece of me going, you got to be fucking shitting me. That's all I needed to be doing all this time.
Well, who taught us that?
Nobody.
Who taught us that? We didn't stand a chance. But my name means much love, flowering forever. Amanda Heather Elam. And I learned that in like 2017 at a retreat, at Sister Rise retreat with Rebecca Campbell. She's like, my name, Rebecca, means to bind. I never liked that. Now I figured out why, kind of thing. And I'm like, I better look up my name. And then when I started, this is just in 2017, when I started embodying more of that love and being like, oh my God, like this was the missing ingredient. Like it's for real. And, it takes a while to reprogram and to accept that love and to get to that point of what you were talking about with the surrender. Because the surrender is, it's taking, for me, it's not saying like, I just give up, I'm just gonna like float around wherever. It's saying, I surrender to all of the wills outside of me. And
Yes.
I surrender into my will and what my higher self and spirit is leading me towards. And you feel it. It pulls through with like a heartstring. And then all the other things you feel in your solar plexus, like, well, stranger danger, like this just does not feel good. And that's built in for a reason. Our bodies are so incredibly, and then we're taught to hate our bodies. That's a whole nother dance. And once I started to really love and heal and embrace my bod, then I could be in tune with the subtle realms around me and these possibilities of choosing love or choosing surrender or choosing myself. And like my surrender was like, okay, I surrender. I'm going to wake up and take my 3 deep breaths and do my gratitudes and do my yoga and the things that, I didn't really want to do before, but I'm going to surrender and give it a chance now and see how it might serve me. And then all of a sudden you start to the magic component that you were just talking about that I thought was so cool was you develop trust. In all of this time, we have lost trust with everyone and everything and ourselves. And, we went through this crazy chapter now where every single person in the world got attacked by an invisible enemy. So we're all in our own biomagnetic field, some of us for the first time ever, to start to learn that and to start to, I think, the beauty of this experience was for us to just to start to take our little pieces of power back and say, you know what, I don't need to worry about, this right now. Yeah, do I have a car payment due tomorrow? I do, but I don't need to think about that in this present moment at this time. I could get, clear with myself. And then when you start showing up for yourself, like when I started showing up on the yoga mat each day, I was like, I started to develop trust. I started to trust myself again when I didn't trust myself or the world around me or anything else. And then it allowed me to get present and really open up to spirit. And then my angels were coming in so much stronger, and my ancestors and magical synchronicities. And I say this all the time to my clients and on some of my other shows, but you're the only one who knows what it feels like to start living in alignment for you, or to start releasing, that old trauma. And what happens is, because we are a spiral and we're circular and we come from these amazing little, energy atoms and everything's so circular, we will come for deeper loops. And what happens is, you show up with your family or the boss or whatever it was, that the opportunity that triggered you before, but then it's just a little softer. And then the next time it's a little softer. And then before you know it, you're like, actually, I've forgiven this situation. It doesn't have the power over me it once had. I don't think about it in my head. It doesn't make me feel icky thinking about it. It existed. It was real. It happened. But I don't have any of that emotional charge to it. And in fact, what'll happen often too, sometimes in our worst pains and our worst experiences, we end up finding compassion. We get so clear away from it all that we're like, oh, well, that was just an unfortunate and sad situation. And it happened because this soul chose to do that. And this soul chose to do this. And, whatever it is, even the worst things. And I've been privileged I've been through my own trauma and drama and shit. We all have, but I've also been privileged to talk to a lot of people who've been through some real shit. And they almost always, there's this commonality of finding, purpose to the pain and finding a way to heal and find purpose and meaning and let that be part of you. And then that's the other part. That's the other crazy part. We're all programmed in to constantly be surviving and doing our best to survive whatever situation's happening. That embodying peace and embodying trust and the unknown is a whole different territory, that it takes some serious gumption, if you will, to step into that and to develop the trust. And like you were saying, now that you've surrendered, it changes all the time. And then there's all these little pieces that you can choose to hop on into as you're co-creating and changing your timelines. And the cool thing that I found about it for me is in doing that, I found my essence. I'm like, oh, I realized that if I just show up for myself, my favorite definition of luck is preparation meeting the opportunity.
Mm.
So like when you're just showing up for yourself and on your own path, then all of a sudden opportunities start showing up for you because you were able to bring yourself into the presence. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, and I think this is why our structures, were co-created or set up this way by however it is, because it's all us. But it gives you an opportunity to step out of that fear and that grief and that shame, and you start to release all of that. And then you just get to be. And then you're like, wow, I really did need a laugh right now. And all of a sudden you're connecting with someone and you're laughing your ass off, or having a dance and enjoying your time. Or if you need to cry, like the waves of tears for me, it's like I call it watering my soul garden. And it comes through so much quicker. Like back in the day, if I would just like avoid feelings and wouldn't want to face that because I was working or going to school or bossing it up or whatever, the whole got to do everything for everyone thing. And I just suppressed all my feelings, and I didn't matter. It wasn't part of it. So then I didn't cry for like 5 years, and then I finally cried, and then it was a lot of crying. And now it just comes in like supernatural waves. When it happens, I honor it in the moment. I let a few tears shed. A lot of times if I cry for 3 minutes, then I'll have a great day the rest of the day. Whereas before, if I held it all in, then it would turn into a mood for like a whole week because you're not processing all of those things. And, you get resentful or upset or angry and to all the things around you. But really, it's just because you haven't let out, this thing that your vessel's saying, hey, this affected me. Can we just acknowledge it for a few?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, it's a slippery slope because we can get addicted to those things sometimes too. And then it takes a lot of radical kind of responsibility to be like, okay, it was comfortable just to go to the sad side or the hard side. Now it's going to take a little bit of strength for me to say, I let the tears out. It's okay. Let me start adjusting to what happy would be like. Let me watch something funny and observe myself. And it's these beautiful, slow, everyday moments and dances, and it's subtle energy, and it does not happen overnight. I think that's why, all the those that came before us call it the work, because it's, it's the conscious like effort into it. But I'm like you, it doesn't feel like work anymore. It feels like a moving prayer.
Yeah.
Like you show up for yourself.
Yeah. I love what you said about trust, because what trust offers for me is a safe space. And I was I think it was literally 2 months ago, as I peeled back all of these layers of myself, that I realized I've never felt safe. I've never felt safe to trust, or to love or be loved, to feel, to experience, to connect. I've never felt safe, rather. And when I started to turn that love back in, I realized, because you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like in the moment, what we forget to ask ourselves is, what do I need right now? And in the container of safety, with safety being literally the foundation for me, when I ask, what do I need? I can, do I need to cry? Do I need to laugh? Do I need to run? Do I need to hide? Whatever. I can give those things to myself so that they don't build up. Like you said about containing or keeping something in, so that like five days later you're still pissed at the world or whatever, because you've decided to hold it in, instead of simply giving yourself what you need in that moment, which might have been a kick in the arse, or some compassion. But regardless, denying yourself is so detrimental that it simply perpetuates a cycle. And what you talked about is a simple example of what honoring you looks like. It's all cool to throw out these expressions and stuff, but people are like, what is she talking about? What is she talking about? Honor, and what does that even fucking mean? What does it look like? And it's exactly what you're talking about. If you have a situation right now that's really difficult, if you're going through stuff in a relationship, friendship, job, your health, your mental health, your well-being, whatever it might be. And it's really hard. It's really hard to do something as simple as ask, what do I need? What do I need? Sometimes it could be, you need to speak your truth right now, even if your goddamn voice shakes. Or you need to detach from the world, go to ground, and come back out when you're ready in your time. You need to do whatever you want to do, not whatever they want to do. And when you do that, you need to not feel guilty for how they receive, perceive, or process you. This is what honoring you looks like. They're tiny examples, but moment by moment, if we deny ourselves, if we don't love ourselves enough to speak or be silent, to take action or to do nothing, that's how we stay in the loop of, well, never being in the present for a start, because you're either ahead or you're behind. You're never here now. So how can you create anything from there? How can you create a new timeline when you're just looping on the old? So to kind of loop it back around again, the self-awareness that you spoke of, for me, listening to you as well, it really is key to the present, because we are going to be put back into, without exception, situations like we were before. That's what's happening. We're back in them again and again and again. And that's what I said. That's what I meant when I said this generation would better get his shit together right now, because we have not learned a fucking goddamn thing, because we're here again. And it's taken this whole situation to take the world to its knees. The same as it does to each and every individual. The world goes, do you know what? You want to know what love looks like? Let me show you. The world blows up. Well, now the whole fucking goddamn world is up. And it's been taken to its knees because it has perpetuated disconnection, separation, loss, control, grief. And it did nothing with it. It decided to just close its eyes, shut down its ears, and think, try to plow forward. No. So
why it's repeating. Think about it. We've still,
it
every
is why
single
it's
human
repeating.
still has, that's it. We all still have the wounds. We've all been taught it generationally, whether it's through society or our families or the media or this or that. The wound has been perpetuated, and we haven't been able to truly tend to it. And I love, there was something Dr. Northrup in the Magenta Pixie said in the beginning of all of this, like, thank you for showing us, or thank you for making it so bad we can't not see it. And there's a lot of discovery of, indigenous burial grounds where Catholic churches were in Canada and different places where, all over, there's just mass graves of lots of Native Americans showing up right now in different ways, and indigenous people in so many cultures. And it's heartbreaking and it's hard, but it's, for me, I'm like, the apocalypse just means an unveiling. And it's an unveiling of these things that are still there that need to be, seen and heard to be healed. And we can't just keep, like you said, saying, that's the other thing too. And I don't know, I rock a lot of boats with it. But it's time for us to not only honor our trauma, but then to start releasing the victimhood around it, because then we're taught to empower ourselves with our traumas and dramas. Oh, nope, I got raped. I'm in that category forever. Oh, I was an addict. I'm in that category forever. My, dad killed my mom, so I'm in that. Or I have, for me, I had really bad fibromyalgia or different health things come up. So that's it. I'm permanently here. And I was working in the system. I was working as a caseworker, helping. I was working with a homeless population at the time, and I'm like, all we're doing is just giving them pills and band-aids. Every now and then we'll give them maybe a coping mechanism to get through their trigger, but we're not teaching anyone how to overcome this and how to truly heal themselves. And like you were saying before, I believe so much that this entire, we want to call it World War III or whatever it is right now, this whole conscious awakening we're going through, this revolution starts with our inner evolution. And until each individual truly steps into that wanting to evolve themselves, which I have such faith in humans. Every single human I know, no matter how shitty their attitude is, wants to feel better each day, wants to start embracing peace, wants to start to be a better person, wants to show up for themselves in a different way or another. So I believe in like this spark that each and every one of us have. And when we all start just taking accountability for ourselves and accepting whatever happened, as shitty as it was, or whatever might have happened to you, or once you get to a certain perspective for you, then you really start to give yourself permission to play with the opportunities of surrender and trust. And you know what? I'm going to just show up for myself. It doesn't feel good or comfortable, but I'm going to do this habit for 10 days to try. Let me just see what the fuck happens if I do tapping each day, or if I go for a walk each day, or meditate, or whatever it is. And it's these tiny little things.
What I heard you say a few minutes ago was, thank you for making it so bad that I can't not see it, right? Now, imagine if each and every single individual in the world, acknowledge that in their own lives. Thank you for literally putting a floodlight, not a little spotlight, but a floodlight on everything that is so bad that I cannot not see it. Pause. Acknowledge. We have been the victims of victims of victims, but the cycle ends now. Yes, I understand why, this happened and that happened and so forth. I just acknowledge, accept. This is acceptance, okay? Okay. Generation after generation after generation, normalize the abnormal. Okay. Okay. I can see why you did that. But the fucking game changes here. Because I want to feel better, and I want to live better, and I want to be on the receiving end of the love that I am, and I want to experience everything from the opposite end of what I have lived. Thank you for making it so bad that I had to do something. And because I did, because I showed myself this, and I did something with this, it's revealed to me the truth of who I am. I am love, and I am loved. I am whole. I am enough. I am powerful. I am fierce. I can become the source of everything that I have looked externally for my entire life and emit the frequency from there. And then with that awareness, that knowledge, that power, that remembrance, that self-love, I can go back out into the world and do everything the opposite of the way I have been conditioned and programmed to. So that while I am here, I can play full out. And while I am here, I can be the change that I want to see. Now, if you've got every single person in some way, tiny way, shape or form, committing to themselves moment by moment, that's how the tide turns, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. That's how the tide turns.
Because we're energy and frequency. And if each and every one of us just take one little kernel grain of responsibility, that's the other thing. We've been taught to like give our power away and not be responsible for our, ourselves in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, some ways, but not in a lot. When we get really real about it, and then it's like, okay, where am I choosing to show up? And you see this a lot in your own life with like, I love to be of service. Like I'm a classic generator. I love to show up, to help, to co-create, to, make whatever I can in this world feel a little bit better, or be a part of helping it feel better kind of thing. But, the ultimate lesson of the empath, which I believe we are all very empathic once we start, removing some layers. But the ultimate lesson is like, you can never take someone else's suffering away from them. a lot of times there's such sacred purpose to what their soul is experiencing or what they're going through in that journey that like we can't just like avoid it for them, but we can be there to hold their hand, to help them feel, figure out how to navigate the hurt, how to
Yeah.
empower themselves and pull the pieces back. And that's something, so everybody gets so frustrated a lot, not everybody, but a lot of people, why is this all happening? And if there's a God, why would it be this way? And there's so much suffering in the world. And when we get to truly take a step back and realize that this whole earth realm, earth school, it's here to grow us each as souls. I think that's
Mm.
why we come in with amnesia. Like if we remembered we were Cleopatra or Hitler or whoever, we'd have some serious like ego things
Mm.
attached to it. And we don't get to show up and just be our soul experiencing at that time. And I believe truly too, the only person who can heal you is you. And a
Mm.
healer is just someone who triggers within you the ability to start really healing yourself and walking your
Yes.
own path. And there's so many amazing lighthouses and healers and teachers or gurus or whoever to give you some little tools and pieces to put in your
Mm.
own tool belt to find your medicines to start showing up for yourself. And the way this whole system has been designed so far with the greed structure, everybody wants to get to this point where they make enough money where they can hire someone else to do all their shit. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but aren't we still like perpetuating everything?
Mm.
Like, we're trying to maybe bring in this whole community thing where we might all have different jobs, but like the work gets a little more, the energy gets a little more evenly distributed, because right now we still have so many people, just trying to make ends meet, working 3 jobs at a time.
Mm.
And there is a consciousness that plays into that. However, I think it hasn't been fair because we just haven't been taught. And can
Mm.
you imagine how many people, if they just had this certain information or it had been taught that it's okay to start loving yourself or choosing yourself or setting healthy boundaries, how everything would change. And a lot of
Yeah.
times it's the simplest thing is when you're having phone calls every day with a friend or a family member who drains you, saying,
Mm.
I love you. I'm sorry you're having a rough day. I'm here for you, but I need to be here for me too. How about we talk for an hour on Tuesday at 4 and have a cup of tea? I can't text you about all this shit right now today because I got to go do my shit and work on my own
Because
shit.
you know what ends up happening? You know what ends up happening is the people who won't take responsibility for themselves and want to perpetuate their own cycles, we become absorbed by what they're going to think of us, or we're not, if we speak up and say anything, well, I have to stay here and listen to this because, well, it's my family member or it's my whatever. No, no. And the thing is, you're right, we were never shown any of this. We were never shown this in any system, in any school, in any whatever. So the thing I want to talk to is frequency.
Mm,
To anybody who's so consumed by the programs that they don't even realize that it's programs that are running. How are you going to know? How are you going to know? I'll tell you how you know, because you can't fake a frequency.
can't
And
fake the frequency.
your being, your soul in skin is communicating with you 24/7. So to the person who's trying to pin down the 3 jobs and is just exhausted and stays in cycles within those jobs where they're just simply trying to make ends meet, and finds themselves with an asshole boss who completely takes them for granted, completely abuses their kindness and mistakes it for weakness, completely forgets that they're looking at God in skin in another form. It's those moments when the frequency becomes so potent that a version of you inside, outside, wherever it is communicating with you saying, Mandee, no, this is not okay. This is not good enough. That you follow that, just that, in that moment, and you take the action steps to honor the frequency that's been literally emitted through you. I don't know how to say this anyway other than when you choose you, the universe gets in behind you, under you, around you, and it provides. And you might, you know, tell someone to shove their job up their ass for treating you like shit, but I will guarantee you, when you choose you, it shows up in every form that you didn't think possible. But when fear, the frequency of fear consumes, suffocates, annihilates, and cripples and immobilizes us, we forget that we have the capacity to create this world for ourselves. It's the frequency perpetuates itself over and over. It just loops. When we can't catch a breath from it, we can't catch a breather or a break from it. The frequency of you will communicate with you. It will tell you what to do, what action to take, or what not to take. It will literally move through you if you acknowledge it. Like say you've got all sorts of shit going down in your world and you come at me and you project it at me, and I know it's got nothing to do with me. I can still be a compassionate, understanding soul and say, back the fuck up with that. That's not my stuff. How am I going to know? Because your whole being will feel it and will ask you to do something with it. As the person in this now moment, you might be whooshed back to when you were about 7 years old, when you had a teacher in your face giving it loads, or some kid on the playground, or in your 20s in an office job, there was some asshole there as well. It doesn't matter. Your being in that now moment recalls the memories so that you can access the wisdom, not so that you can perpetuate that cycle and go back into your shell. You're not your 5-year-old self anymore. You're a grown-ass woman talking to me right now, and what you want to do with that. And you can still be love and say no. You can still be love and say yes. You can still be love and say nothing. You can still be love and say everything. And I think that's what we forget. I think that's what we forget. Because, well, what if Mandy's being a bitch. What if I turn around and say it like she's going to think I'm this, that, what if she leaves? What if she's not my friend anymore? What the fuck ifs? See where we latch back on. Why? Because it's all we've known. It's all we've known. How about we go and find out what it's like from the opposite end now? That's what I want to do. I'm not saying that I'm always going to get it right by any means, but I'll tell you what does happen. The frequency of me moves through me now with such force because I have taken the time to understand myself. It moves through me with such force that if I try to fuck myself over one time, I'm going to be taken to the ground by me.
Yep. That's what happens with this. Like, you become more awake and more conscious. And then because of that, your yourself and your higher self hold you more responsible in a different kind of way.
And literally goes, do you not think we have been through enough? Yeah, we have. Okay. And we didn't know then what we know now. Okay. And you're like, okay, so what do you want to do? I don't want to feel like this anymore. Then make a choice. Take the action step. Get behind it. You are in charge. It's you.
It's you. It's always been you. It always will be you. We say it over and over again. And the more you just show up for yourself, the more you prove it to yourself. And I love what you were talking about. You can't fake the frequency. Like, it's true. And that's just, like I said, if you're getting overwhelmed because you have someone dumping on you or complaining too much and your body feels it and it's like, this is too much. I need to set a boundary.
It's easier to turn around and say, I feel like shit because Mandee was a bitch to me. And when I was 14, I didn't get picked for the school team because the school captain was a bitch. No. That was the experience that allowed you to find out better, to know better, to discern better. And if you choose to stay there, that's okay. That's okay. But know that you are the root cause of your suffering. And in the present moment, you can do something differently. It can be something as simple as saying, Mandee, I know you're under pressure. I know life might be a little bit difficult right now. but do not speak to me like that. It's not okay. It's not good enough. I don't speak to you like this. Don't speak to me like that. Tiny. I've honored myself. I have honored you. It's unarmed truth and unconditional love.
And listen to the frequency and the way you said that resonated. I call that loving assertiveness. It's just saying, hey, time out. We don't need to create this shitstorm of emotions around both of us
No,
right now, kind of thing, and we
exactly.
can take a breath and a beat. My mom always says that, take a beat. And I love that, take a heartbeat. And it's true, you take a breath, you take a beat, you step back, and then you get to choose. And you can sit there like, if I am being a crazy bitch to you or whatever, you could get upset or get triggered or, or you can just be like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't me. And I'm aware enough to know that the reaction in this person doesn't really have much to do with me other than, how I choose to show up for it, and
Yeah.
that's just it. And it doesn't mean we're not perfect. Like we still all get into little fights here or there, things happen, but it's shorter, it's quicker. You catch yourself faster and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not going to get in a 20-minute scream. I don't scream at all
No.
anymore, but back in the day, for sure. Like my mom, she broke the cycle of physical abuse in our family. We didn't get hit, thank God, but all the generations before her did. But we had
Yeah.
yelling,
Same.
so I definitely grew up with that. And then it gets to a point, I've had, I'm 35 now. I've had 3 serious long-term relationships, and each one gets a little softer. And then I realized I don't want to engage like that way, or I just won't play with that energy. There are literally, listen, I'd love to talk to you about all this, but I will not fight with you about it. I
Yeah.
can't do that anymore in my life. It takes too much energy. And if you got to go throw rocks for a while out in the woods, like I honor that, go do it. Do what you got to
Yeah.
do, scream into a pillow, let that energy out of you. But I can't do it anymore. And I'm not going to do it to you either. And then you'll catch yourself. You'll be like, oh, no, I'm triggering. I am being a bitch or whatever, like I need to go take a walk around the block and I'll be back.
Yeah.
And when we just
And
let that happen, whoa.
yeah. When you meet someone there, the game changes. When you realize, okay, there's nothing I can do about what's just gone down outside of me, but I can do everything, and I can about what's going on within me. So I can internalize, allow that bitterness to brew up a good storm in here. Who's that serving? Or I can do something with it. And like I said, to do something with it, maybe many things. But for me, in understanding what are my core values and operate from there. Mine are love, compassion, and integrity.
Mm.
Am I being love to the other or myself? Am I being compassion to the other or self? Am I being integrous within my own skin? And is this situation in integrity with me? And I can't get there without trying to understand myself, figure myself out. For me, I've done that very much by using the 0 pointing process. It doesn't matter how anybody chooses to do it. There are tools and techniques, like you said earlier on, that you can literally equip yourself with. But the thing is to equip yourself, the choice. And then not to have those things gather dust, to use them, because that's what we've done, as you said, done the work for, so that we can access these things and apply them, so that being here in human form is not a struggle. It's an honor and a privilege. And our time is limited. What do you want to do with your time? I don't want to wait for a thing anymore. I don't want to wait for anything. I want to just play full out. And the seconds that I'm down, I look at them now as a reboot, a reset. That's all it is, a reset. And off we go again. But more and more and more to access the treasures that I have accumulated as a result of experiencing trauma, pain, suffering, whatever it might look like, and apply them as the human in skin on the ground. Because like you said earlier on, the beginning of this, that's where it all started. That's where the growth and expansion occurs. That's where we get to integrate and we get to elevate. And that's where we get to see the magic of this whole experience called life. We're not here to exist. We're not here to blend in. We're not here to suffer. We're just not. And in remembering that and asking ourselves very frequently, fine, okay, what are you here for? I'm following that. I'm here for love. I'm here for connection. I'm here for expansion. And I'm here to have a fucking laugh. I don't know about you.
I really like the sensuality and the pleasures of this earth realm. And I love laughing and having dinner parties with my friends and, enjoying swimming in the ocean and all these like just little things that give us, these sensual experiences, making and cooking the food and listening to music. And, that's just it. I do say too, because we have a tendency to just kind of stew on our own shit and play our cycles over and over and over again. And with myself, and I've had a lot of clients and friends be like, what can I do to like interrupt my path? Like, what can I do to like, I don't want to just stay on this. And then, my mom always says too, move a muscle, change a feeling. And for me, that like was something, she told me that recently, but it was something that I had been embodying for a while. And that's what I do. I'd be like, okay, well, I need to just I like the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins. She's a motivation coach. And it talks about how if you don't pair an actual physical movement with an impulse within 5 seconds, you lose it. She uses the example of you're sitting on the couch, all right, I got to go to the gym. I got to work out. Okay, I'm going to do it. And if you don't do it within 5 seconds of that impulse and pair an action step with it, that's where the motivation comes in. Then you lose it all. And 15 minutes later, okay, I got to go do my workout now. I didn't do it. And so a lot of times for me, that's another rip off the Band-Aid experience. I'll put the song on and I'll get up and I'll just start dancing. Or if I'm so like caught up in my own shit, or there's just so much trauma or drama or whatever it is, I'll go volunteer somewhere else. I'll be like, I'm going to go to the animal shelter today. I'm going to go do this today so I can just be of service. And then you get out of your own loop, you get out of your own shitstorm. You usually have to help other people or problem solve in some way. And by the time you're done with that experience, even if it's just a couple hours, you have a different perspective on life because you let yourself move and just take yourself. Sometimes you just got to take yourself out of your own shit. I have a very good friend who lost her husband to cancer this year, and it wasn't fun or easy, but she's like, I just need to go and concentrate on someone else or something else for a while. Like, I don't even want to be in all my own stuff. And I'm like, I honor that sister. And that helped her to co-create and develop and see things in a very different way through that experience. And as horrible as it also ended up being one of the most beautiful experiences of her life too, because she got to be present and enjoy the shamanic energies and the stuff that comes through. Doesn't mean she doesn't go through the grief waves, because we're human and we have to feel that, but we show up for it and we honor it in a different kind of way, or we see it less of a happening to me and this is just something happening around me and for me, and like this too shall pass and I will grow from it. When you can talk to yourself in the really hard situations like that, I think that's where a lot of the magic happens too. And just give yourself permission to be like, yep, I'm riding this shitty wave, but I know I'm going to ride it and I'm going to come out stronger and more beautiful and more heart-centered.
Yeah. Being mindful of the time, there's one thing I just want to say to you, just to jump back in with what you said, right? Which was about frequency and those portals, or the opening, the 5-second rule, right? We talked a little bit about this in the very beginning, about the opportunities have always been there, right? They've always been there. We're distracted by everything else. That's what I'm talking about. That right there is what I'm talking about. In that moment, when you acknowledge the frequency, make a conscious choice to adjust the frequency, okay? As in, adjust the action to meet the frequency, right? When you would choose to take the action step to adjust the frequency, all of a sudden these options open like doorways. I described it earlier on in the conversation, ironically, we had with a friend, as these doorways open, universe goes, okay, bitch, come over here, here we go. And you're like, hang on a second, I've just got to tie my shoelace. And it's like the universe goes, oh, okay, cool, door closes. No, right?
Yeah.
You're back in the same situation again. This time you make sure that you've got double knots tied in your trainers, so that when the doors are open, you're not there stumbling trying to get your shit together while the doors are open. Instead, the
Because you,
frequency and the actions match and you bolt through that door. And
right?
then you're through there. You have the potential in those moments to rewrite so many different timelines, even the story with your friend. The core picture there may be grief, but what gifts, what doors are opening as a result of being in the experience of grief? What is the current frequency? And you know as well as I do, it fluctuates so much moment by moment. When we ride the waves, we ride them, and when we resist them, that's when we go under and drown. But each and every situation is offering us the opportunity to align our choice, our free will, our action steps with the frequency of what the soul knows and that the soul's trying to communicate, not from a place of, I'm going to make you suffer, but I love you and I want the best for you. And that's you talking to you. And so when we listen and acknowledge that, when we let the whole lot come into coherence, the heart, the mind, the body, the breath, that's when we open more and more and more and more doorways to new timelines that are the opposite of what we have lived. The
Yes.
absolute opposite. And to somebody who doesn't feel in frequency, accesses the memory of the trauma as opposed to the memory of the wisdom, that will look terrifying.
Mm.
Terrifying. I don't know about you. On that note, all I can say is any time that I went against my gut, I learned the hard way. Anytime I followed it, I might have shit myself.
True.
But I swear to God, it was just worth it every single time. And it took me closer to my heart than farther away from it. So I don't know anything after that.
Oh, I just love it. And like that moment, that's what you were saying when you chose to show up to tie your shoes. That's that preparation, like luck is preparation meeting the opportunity. Because you're like,
Mm.
oh, the opportunity might come again today. So I'm going to tie my shoes and double knots and be ready for when the door
Yeah.
opens. That's
Yeah.
all that is. That's all
And
that is.
that's it is when it represents, like I said earlier on, with the package, with the new wrapping and the different bow, when it represents itself, if you can't tap into your frequency, not if you can't, rather, if you choose to absolutely ignore it, because you can't ignore it. You can't ignore this. You are frequency. So it's not like, oh, it's okay for Melissa. She's there talking about frequency, but she can obviously feel everything and I can't. Well, what do you want to do about that? You
Yeah.
know, I took my action steps. I zero pointed the shit out of my life so that I could get here. What are you going to do? Right? Because you are frequency. To deny that, you are denying yourself. So in that moment when you're being presented evolve or repeat, it's okay. Whatever you choose is okay. Whatever you choose is okay. You don't have to smash doors down. You know, when they're gone, you don't have to be boxing the shit out of them to try and get in.
Yeah.
But you're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to, if you can be in the present moment, minus the distractions of everyone and everything else, the burden of responsibility for them on top of it, be here now, take a breath in the now moment, understand yourself more and more and more, commit to that. It allows you to access your own frequency like this It allows you the opportunity via your choice and free will to merge and match your action steps with the frequency so that the portals or the doorways open so you can step through, or you can take a breath and brace yourself, fix your shoes if you have to. Wear a princess gown, I don't give a shit. Just in the next moment when it's represented to you, that you access the wisdom of it. Know that if it's back up, it's back up for you. It's not back up to haunt you, torment you, cause you to suffer. It's here for you to lean in and to surrender to the idea that I am doomed for the rest of my life to repeat my history. The only time that happens is when you ignore that frequency that's trying to take you home.
Mm.
That's just my thoughts.
That's the truth. You know, that's that feeling of unalignment. Like when you're having all these feelings that don't feel good, you know, and like the you're not always going to feel good, but you'll feel at peace or you'll feel content. And then, you know, but when you have all these other things that you literally feel it drain your energy.
Yeah.
So you get to every single moment tune in to what your energy is feeling like. And it takes time. And as you're building the bridges, and say you were someone who's tuning in and you have a lot of burdens right now, it's showing up to the burdens that you have with a different kind of attitude. Well, you know what? I'm really grateful I'm able-bodied and I'm able to use my hands and wash the dishes right now. And I can push play on a YouTube video and listen to that while I'm doing all these chores. Or, you know what? Like sometimes maybe the heavier load does fall on the stronger shoulders, and I've got the shoulders to handle it right now. And each time I'm going to learn how to take my power back a little bit and get a little more graceful with it. It's just meeting yourself in the exact moment that you're at and choosing to see it just a little bit differently and to feel it just a little bit differently and to respond. And then that's how you slowly co-create this new version of your life that you're wanting and getting on the train that you want to get onto. But it can start right in the most chaotic moments that, you know, you might be experiencing.
Yeah, it begins and ends with you.
Ah, Melissa, this was such an honor. You are magic. And I'm just so grateful to know you and walk with you in this lifetime.
Thank you so much for this space. I really enjoyed it as well. I love it. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. And to all of our listeners, if you're tuning in, you can follow me, Mandee Elam, on SeaGoddessHealingArts.com. And we've got all the social media pages. And where can they find you, Melissa?
You can reach me on my website, melissadeehan.com, Facebook, and yeah, that's probably the handiest two places. Yeah. Also, no, they're the two best places to catch me. Yep.
Well, thank you for taking some soul space with us here on Saltwater with the Soul for the Soul. And thanks for all of our listeners for tuning in. We will definitely catch you soon.
Thanks, Mandee.